Hi friends, welcome back to Ginger Chick Rehab. If you are now coming from part one yesterday, these were yesterday's projects, these beautiful pieces that Chris and I put together. And we are finishing up the last two projects. Oh, they are some good ones, so stay tuned. Sometimes you just get busy working and you forget to take a good staging picture before you get started. So we actually have a two-pane window. One of the panes has a crack in it. And this drawer that we brought home from an auction with some auction goodies in it that needs to figure out how to be repurposed. So Chris is actually going to make it into a window box by cutting it in half. So that's what he's doing right now. He's cutting this drawer into two pieces. So now he's going to take a piece, the back piece of the drawer itself, and he's going to use that as the back of the new drawer. So that way the wood is going to match. And actually, once you cut it in half, a lot of times it wants to fall apart. So yes, that is just perfect. It's a more workable size, and it still has that beautiful patina. So yet again, some tight bond wood glue that's going to help that just stay nice and sturdy, along with brad nailing it in. And then he's also going to flip it over in case somebody does put plants in here that you want to, you're going to water. You want to make sure that those boards are going to stay together. So he's just going to put a couple screws in that bottom board into that back piece to make sure that it's good and secure. See, my thought process is the window box, the drawer, will hide that crack spot. There's nothing wrong with this two-paned window. It just has that crack on the side, and now we're hiding it. So, but unfortunately, this is a window that was meant to be the other way. So Chris actually needs to cut some of that area so it's going to be able to lay flat against the box. So, it's never always just an easy project, but I wanted the up and down, not the across of the windows. So that's what he's doing now. He's just making that area flat. He doesn't have to go all the way up. He just has to go up to where the box is going to be attached. And old windows always have a build up of paint. There's always that edge where it was in the window frame itself that is unpainted, and then it has a big goopin of goopin, that's a word, right? Goopin of paint buildup. So he's just taking some 80 grit sandpaper and sanding that smooth. It's going to need a fresh coat of paint, especially since it has green along the one side. Now he's just using our Kills paint and primer in the flat white to touch up the window. He doesn't have to get it perfect. It just will freshen it up, cover up that green. He's not going to be painting where he's going to be gluing it onto the box. One, that's not necessary, and two, he doesn't want any other fresh surface there that's going to, because he'll be gluing it, that's going to prevent the good adhesion from happening. And now that the paint is dry, and yes, we did do both sides because you never know if that side is going to be flush against something or if it's going to be freestanding and you're going to see both sides. So I'm just going back in with some 220 sandpaper and just roughing it up. It just freshens it up, covers up that green, just gives it that nice clean look, even though we're going back in and giving it some distressing. Just but like before, the brads are really just like a clamp to hold the two pieces together until he can pre-drill a hole and put some screws in. The screws are and the glue are what are really going to hold the two pieces together. Now I guess I could paint on the window or I could vinyl on the window, but I can't guarantee that that will stay on the window itself. So I'm going to go ahead. I want to sign some signage hanging off, and I have this that I actually picked up at a pick because I knew I could make it over. I already had hanging wire. It wasn't a look that I was going to keep, so it's perfectly fine to buy another person's sign and paint over it. So first of all, I'm just going to go ahead and get this wire removed, And then I'm going to go ahead and sand it down. It didn't feel like it was raised, but just to be on the safe side, it's always good to sand. You don't want to necessarily see all that lettering underneath your new sign. And hopefully I don't have to worry about that burgundy bleeding through my paint. And yes, I am going to be using French eggshell. This is fastly becoming one of my favorite colors. That soft greenish blue, oh my goodness. So with a paint that has the primer and the top coat in it, it's perfect for the outdoors. And so all I'm doing is going to apply. Look how that coverage is just absolutely wonderful. And it's nice to have that pop of color in between that window pane. So really, I only felt like this only needed one coat. Awesome. So I'm going back in with some 220 sandpaper, and I'm just going to go ahead and distress. I want some of that wood, especially on the corners, to look like it has been wore off. And then if any dripped on my sides, I want to get that sanded off. And just a light little sanding on the top. There really isn't any brush strokes whatsoever. And then now I'm going to use one of Funky Junk's flower stencil. I absolutely love it. It's a perfect fit. I knew I had these stencils when I saw that board. I'm like, oh, I would think that's a perfect fit for these stencils. And Fresh Flowers is perfect for a window box. So I just used a little bit of spray adhesive to hold the stencil on so it doesn't shift around on me. And now I'm just using Fusion's Black Coal as my stencil color. It's really nice because it has a top coat in it, so then I won't need to spray after I've finished the sign. I don't want my signage to look like it's a new sign, so I'm doing that same 220 sandpaper and taking some of that off. I know you could just do your stenciling a little bit lighter, but there's just something different about sanding it off and looking like it wore off than not having enough paint to cover. And then I'm just going to be reusing that same piece of wire, and I need to straighten it out a little bit. It'll be that perfectly imperfect, but I'm going to share with you how to twist if you do not know how to twist to keep that wire on. So I'm pulling it from the back to the front, kind of trying to figure out how I want it to hang. So what I do now is I got needle nose pliers. I go right to that end and then I just twist it down and keep on twisting until I have it right to the board, and then I'll take a hammer and then I'll hammer it down. But yes, you just take that little tip and then you just start twirling it around the needle nose pliers. I usually always go towards the inside, trying to keep them as even as I can, but it makes a nice secure fit. So I personally love the look of the old aged wood on this, but I know it's probably got some dirtiness um, on it. And then there's a couple paint drips that I'm going to try to sand off. So I'm actually going to go ahead and take some sandpaper while this is wet because I really don't want to take that beautiful aged patina off this wood. And then even though that crack is still there, it's still there. It's not disappearing. I have no powers to fuse glass back together. I can't hide it. So yes, the box is hiding it, but I also thought, you know what do I have that's pretty that I think would stick to this? And one of the Millot's transfer moths, butterflies, whichever way you see this flying insect. Oh my gosh, look at how big it just will just hide that crack. So I'm just going to go ahead and transfer it on. And I actually am going to do one from the front. This was an afterthought of putting the box on. So it is what it is, but it definitely will hide that. You know, there's no reason not to make your back sides of your projects just as pretty as your fronts. Now to seal my transfers in, I'm just going in with some natural clear Howard's wax to seal them in. Oh my goodness, are they just not too cute? So you see one cute one from the front, and then if by chance, if somebody's looking at the back, you'll see that beautiful one too. Then if you get any of the wax on the window itself, I just use my Norwex window cloth, my glass cloth, and it just wipes right off the glass. So I actually went to Walmart looking for a couple little pots because I love my terracotta pots and they have beautiful age to them. But these were actually more reasonable than terracotta pots. They're a beautiful color. I just absolutely love the color of these pots, and I think they were like $6 a piece. They were a Better Homes and Garden, even though the sticker didn't necessarily want to come off. The more you worked at it, the more you took the patina off. So it is going to be just left the way it is. So it's going to be hidden inside anyway. So I just have some Dollar Tree floral foam. I do not glue mine in. I just make sure that my flower arrangement is nice and tight and that it is in there. That way it doesn't ruin anything and you can take it out if you want. And I'm going to be using 3 different years. I have such a stash of this lavender in my hoard that yes, I have 3 different years of Walmart's different ways that they made it. So, and I love visually adding that different of textures together anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with my shorter one, which is my 3 years ago lavender, and cutting the stems off of the grouping itself. So not worrying about the tag because that's going into the foam, but I'm going to go ahead and just start arranging it. I want my shorter ones towards the bottom, and I'll fill in as need be. I really do love doing floral arrangements, if you guys cannot tell, though I don't really do a lot of them. So now I'm just using some of the dried grass. This is brown in color. I knew when I purchased the pots that this was going to match because the greens that I had, the hues, the shades were way too off, too contrasting with the lavender's greenery, so this works in perfectly. This grass will then make it nice and tight in the pot, and then I'll add a little bit of the shorter stem to make sure that it is nice and full. Okay, well, so this window crack, I don't think you can hide. I don't think a butterfly is going to cover up this. And sadly, this was something that was done in our own storage of the windows. So yeah, I heard it when I was going to get a window, and I'm like, uh-oh, somebody cracked in there. So unfortunately, yes, now Chris is going to go ahead and remove the rest of the glass, but safety first. Goggles on, something to cover up the glass, hitting it with a hammer. It's all about safety when it comes to shards of glass. So this next project, I'm just going to admit to you guys right off the bat, it has a lot going on. My vision in my head, my inspiration picture from a Funky Junks blog that has been on my Pinterest board forever now is going to become a reality because I have a place to resell items like this. So first off, I'm taking, or Chris is actually taking some of the boards that I thrifted from the Habitat for Humanity, 25-cent boards, y'all. Oh my goodness. So as you see, they probably came off some of these projects, so he's going to just actually cut the, I want to leave as much length on them as I can, so he's just going to cut off that one piece that is not completely straight. Yeah, I'm gonna have this little potting station. So we have the window. I wanted to make a sign because I am absolutely in love with the Funky Junk signs, and I love this potting shed. So here is our vision. So we have the window frame that doesn't have glass in it. I have this random piece of wood that is a piece of the table that I picked, and then I also have these that I picked forever ago, which were toppers to probably an outdoor fence or decking or something, that he's going to go ahead and add in there also. But I need to remove the screws. It has a two-way screw, so just putting in a device to get it to hold the screw is the easiest if you have that ability. And then I'm just going to get it unscrewed. So he does need to make one of the sides flat. So what this is acting as is like a brace. So when he puts the window onto the piece of wood, there's something really to hold the two together, not just to flop back and forth. So these are perfect use for these. So that's what he's doing. He's just going to go ahead and cut them down. But then he also needs to give the window a flat edge also. It is not completely flat, so to get good adhesion between the flat piece of table, that's just a random piece of wood I picked up, that never really made a sign. I never could really envision it for a sign, so it's great that that's finally being used in our stash. So yeah, he's just going to cut just enough off this bottom of the window to make it flat. And next, yep, he's got some more cutting to do. I don't use the table saw. I am not, you can tell me down in the comments below if you are daring enough. I'm slowly getting into cutting tools, but the table saw still intimidates me. And if you're scared of something, heck, do not use it. But like I said, this is a piece of table. It's just, there was no table to go with it. It's just a piece of table. So it also has a weird little edge, that needs to be flattened too. Whew, and yes, this is definitely a Sunday project that Chris and I are working on, making all these beautiful outdoor things, getting ready for our open house at are the newly owned antique store. It's just the cutest little building, y'all. And there's a little lady that has a shed, and we have the half of the front porch to do outdoor items. So I was super excited when she said she was going to have an open house. I'm like, oh, I can make some, I can make some outdoor stuff and just pray that it doesn't snow. By the time you're seeing this video, the open house will already have been done. But I was excited that I could get some of my creations out there. So now all I'm doing is just dressing these very painted. There must have been like a latex, is that rubbery paint on there. So I would just want to give them that nice aged look. And then the window actually needs some cleaning also. So not only do I want to get that gunky area off where it's been painted, I want to make sure that everything is nice and flat, and then making sure on the inside there's always those little metal pieces. I always forget what they're called, that hold the window in, and then any old caulking that might fall. That is loose. I want to get that nice and even, along with, as you see, you can see some green. The back side of this is green. So it'll be getting a fresh coat of Kills paint primer on both sides to freshen it up. So now I'm on the fence about these little finials. So, yep, they're nice and flattened, but it's that really raw texture that I really don't like. So I'm going to take the time to sand as much of it, smooth it as I can, because you know, when you have that texture, it just grabs. We get cottonwood here in our area, along with spider webs, and you know, that kind of stuff just likes to attach to anything that would grab onto it. So I want to take the time to smooth them, but I don't think I want to paint these white. I really think that it'll be nice to have a contrasting color on this little potting area here. But I do want to add some age to this piece of wood. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the school glue a crackle on this. So, and actually, I don't want it to be the same crackles all over. So I've noticed the thicker areas where you put the thicker glue, you get bigger crackles. And then if you just put a light little thin coat, you get little crackles. So I'm going to I'm going to attempt to try to control my crackles. We'll see how that goes. But I think I've done enough crackling now to realize, oh, well, I put a thicker coat on, or I put a thinner coat on. I really would like to have this have a variance of crackles on it. Now that I have my glue applied, I go right in and I'm just using Kills Paint and Primer. And I'm just going to try not to overlap. This is quite a big surface and I'm really down to the bottom of my can here. So I did end up having to overlap and scrape a little bit, but you really want to not work your paint so much into your glue. You just want to do a one coat coverage. And yes, oh my gosh, y'all, wait till you see the end results. I did warn you that I have to flip-flop back and forth on this project because there's a lot of components that are going to be going together. So there's a lot of smaller projects that are going to make one grand project. So now I'm going to go ahead and I need to attach these two boards together. So I just have a paint stick that I am going to just brad nail on. With a little bit of Tite Bond glue, of course, but I need to just go ahead and cut it in half, and all I need to do, just a paint stick, so the Japanese saw will work just fine to give that general cut in half. And I misspoke. I'm actually using the staple gun. And if I would have put a third brace in the middle, it probably would have stayed together a little bit better. But I like the little hack of just using some staples and stapling the two boards together like that. And I like to do it on the front too. It's just personal preference of how you want to put your boards together. But see, I knew, oh my gosh, these stencils are just amazing, y'all. So just a little bit of spray adhesive. I'm not going to be using the flower in the middle. I have another plan to put something in the middle of that, but I wanted this signage to be at the top of the window. So just a little bit of the fusion paint in the coal black for my stencil color, but the spray adhesive just helps so your stencil doesn't move around. If you can hold on to your stencil as you're doing it, you don't have to use the spray adhesive by any means. I put those pieces of tape because there's two little lines, which I'm assuming are to help kind of guide that it stays straight, since the fonts are two different fonts, which helps you line it up. So that was wonderful. And I'm just doing that dry brush technique where it's better to have just a little bit of paint on than too much. Now I'm back over to, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I controlled my crackles, you guys. Look at that. So I've got smaller crackles in with larger crackles. I'm going to go ahead and give my board some age, bring out that beautiful rounded detail. I am actually even surprised myself. Oh my goodness, y'all. I love the variance of the crackle on this board. And then I need to go in and start sanding on my window frame. Our pieces are going to start coming together here pretty soon, but I need to age my freshly painted window. And I'm actually adding chicken wire. I'm sure some of you are like, I know what she's going to do. You were right. I'm adding chicken wire. That will be a great place to hang some gardening tools. So luckily, Chris was home to help, because when you get the farther you get into a roll of chicken wire, the tighter it is and harder to pull. So I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that he's doing these projects with me. I could have done it, but it would have been a little bit more difficult. So just going ahead and staple the chicken wire on. My last step before Chris puts this all together is I'm going to give these finials a little bit of age. So I use the watered down antiquing wax where I add some of the Waverly black ink. You know, everything else has some age to it, so I need to age my pieces of wood. So as he works to attach the pieces together, just note that there's tight bond glue in between the joints. The brad nails are just like a clamp just to hold it together so he can pre-drill a hole and then screw it together in place. So a lot of times if you don't pre-drill your hole, your wood will split. So that's what he's trying to prevent here. And yes, the finials actually do have a purpose to help hold the two pieces together. So now we're going to go ahead and attach, and my boards are just big enough, so we're going to have to attach it a little bit higher. As you see, the boards just fit right in between that window frame. So that's okay. We'll just attach my sign a little bit on the higher side. Sometimes you work with what you got. And this is why I wanted to leave as much wood as I possibly can, because we have a stash of hinges that are just pieces and parts, but oh, they are gorgeous. So I'm taking 2 pieces and parts of hinges and putting them on either side. All I did was give them a bath. That crustiness and rustiness was still just there. Then I actually picked these tools up at an estate sale when I was out picking. I love the patina of the wood. I knew that, I had this vision in my mind. So sometimes it takes you a few picks to get all the items together that you are looking for, but they did not have holes in them to be able to hang. So Chris is just drilling a hole, and then we're going to go ahead and put some leather strapping string in them, but I'm going to age that in some of the antiquing wax. Now, y'all, if you don't believe in God wink moments, I really went into my local Goodwill going, I really would like a galvanized bucket that is skinny, or something that I could hang off that chicken wire to hang some seeds off that is skinny. Y'all, look what I found. Are you kidding me? And it even has the aged wood. So other than removing the stickers off of it, hey, you know what? I'll put a little bit of work into something when I had asked for it. Okay, so I have the number stamps or the number stencils from a Funky Junk Stencil too. Oh my gosh, these are one of the first ones that I had purchased, and I love to number things. It's just a personal preference, and they don't have to make any sense. So I'm going to do a little bit of straight spray adhesive, and yes, I'm going to put a little bit of number on this. Oh my gosh, this is an adorable galvanized piece. Because this was actually the bucket that I had hanging from it. I think it's an old citronella candle. I love that they're always aged, so I do pick these up because I love the age of them. But the roundness, it didn't really hang. It would have worked, but it just really didn't hang right. So yes, here I am. I'm adding some more stencils because I can. And I do think this was Funky Junk Stencil's blog inspired too, that it was on my Pinterest board of numbering these. So these are the pots that you can put in the ground after you had your seed starting. So I remembered it when I was looking for those pots earlier, and I'm like, oh yeah, this would be a really simple project of just making some beautiful decor. And you could probably actually even seal these in with a top coat and use them as a pot if you actually wanted to, but they're just that cardboard that you know is going to take stencils very easily. And I'm actually just wanting to show you that you don't have to use all that is around. You can just use the numbers. And then I realized, I'm like, you know what? I need to cut these apart. Oh, my heart. That always makes you nervous. But I'm like, actually, this would be easier to cut my numbers apart to use them. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I know this is not something that everybody can do, and as you saw, I needed the help of my husband Chris, and I am thoroughly blessed that we work well together, especially when I'm trying to get my vision of what I see from the picture, my inspiration. Thank you, Funky Junks. Little did I know that I had so many of her pictures from her blogs saved onto my Pinterest as inspiration. So it was fun to share them with you all. If you have not checked her out, you know, I link her items down below. I absolutely love her stencils, and reworking some of her creations with my own little ginger chick tweak to them and sharing them with you all. So I hope that you enjoyed today's content, and let me know down in the comments below, are you an outdoor decorator? Do you enjoy the outdoors? I just thoroughly love decorating the outdoors as much as I love decorating my own house. So let me know down in the comments below. And as always, if you're a part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you are new and you're checking out this channel for the first time and you liked what you saw, not only do we do outdoor items, I do indoor items. I love to secondhand thrift, estate sales, garage sales, auctions, thrift stores, whatever I can find those treasures out in the wild. And I love to share my vision of what to do with these items once I get them back home. So thanks again for watching, guys, and we will see you next time, and you can see what we're up to. Bye!